Hello and welcome to the final video in our series on MapleLearn art. In the previous two videos, I showed you all of the techniques I use to make art, and here we're going to walk through one big example. For the final time, for additional information, check out the MapleLearn document gallery, which has tons of how-tos and inspiration. And if you want to take your art to the next level, consider submitting a piece to the Maple Conference MapleLearn Showcase. The due date for submission is October 14th, 2022. So I wanted to come up with an example that used everything from my previous two videos. So I put something together. I want to give you this notice that this was made in advance. So all of the commands and functions are done completely behind the scenes. Often MapleLearn art requires a lot more experimentation, and you might need to change elements a little at a time until you're perfectly happy with them. Take your time, don't expect perfection immediately, and break down your piece one element at a time, like I'm going to do now. After a period of brainstorming, I decided to draw a boat on the water. Since I showed you guys animation in the previous video, I knew I needed to put some animation in my art. The first thing I drew was the water, which I represented with a sine curve. But then I wanted more. I wanted it to be a block of waves, several sine curves, one after the other, to represent a large body of water. So I was able to do that with the sequence generator, which, if you recall, generates multiple copies of the same plot using a minor variation. So we're going to add some vertical translation associated with a variable, which I will then give a sequence generator. We are going to generate sine x plus b such that b is between -16 and 0 and increments by 2. We see the results that we indeed produce sine x minus 16, sine x minus 14, and so on. I'm going to hide those results because they make things a bit messy. And now we have all of our sine curves. To truly make them ocean water, I'm going to make all of them blue. Remember that you can mask color by clicking apply to all points in cell, and in just a few clicks, all of our waves are blue. But I wanted even more than that. It doesn't look blue enough. So I decided to add a background that is a big block of blue. I can make a big block with a shaded rectangle, which I gave just big wide coordinates so it'll take up as much space as possible. Like so. But that's not quite what I wanted. Something to note here, MapleLearn will overlap plots such that the lowest thing in the document is on top. So if I want this block to be behind the sine curves, I need to make sure that it's above the sine curves. Now, if I give it a nice dark blue color, set our plot window size, and lock it in place, we have a beautiful wavy ocean. Now it's time to start adding that animation. The first thing I wanted to do was make the water look like it's flowing. So I added the animation variable inside the sine curve. Now as the variable changes, it's moving to the side. It's moving to the side. But then I wanted to take it even further. Then I wanted to make it go up and down, like it's actually flowing. So I added the animation variable to the vertical translation as well. Now it moves up and down as sign changes. I forgot to apply the same to the shaded rectangle, so I can add that to one of the points as well. And now it all moves in one big flowing ocean. And I think it looks really cool. The next thing we have to do is add the boat, which is going to be a shaded semicircle. I'll start with the circle now and turn it into a semi later. Like the water, it needs to move up and down with the animation variable. And what did I do wrong? Oh, I forgot to put the brackets around the coordinates. It can get a little confusing when you have this many brackets, but you can sort of trace your way through it. This is the bracket around sine animate. These are the brackets around the coordinates of the center point. These are the brackets around the circle command, and these are the brackets around the shaded command. If your function or command isn't plotting properly, double check your brackets like that to make sure you're not forgetting one or putting one in the wrong spot. Now I'm going to color my boat brown and make sure that it looks good. There it goes, rising and falling as the water moves. Now I need to make it a semicircle. So we're going to define the angles that we want to see. This will only plot the circle between those two angles, producing a semicircle. That looks quite nice, but then I had another big idea again. I wanted to see it rotate. I want to see the boat look like it's being rocked by the water. So the way I decided to do that was to have the angles of the semicircle associate with the animation variable. This is the formula I eventually came up with after a bit of experimentation. Now here, the way that it's done is that at any given point of the animate variable, the angles of the semicircle are different. You see, we change each one. That happened to have a similar cos value, but if we put it here, now we see those are the angles. If we put it here, these are the angles, but let's make it continuous so it's a bit cleaner. If we gradually change the value, watch as the boat rotates as it sails through the water. I just think that looks so cool, and I was so happy when I got this to work. The next thing I decided to add was a mast and sail. A mast would be a line sticking out like this, and a sail would be a triangle. However, I would need to make sure that it moved properly with the rotation of the boat and the rise and fall of the water. This ended up being a really complicated series of mathematical formulas, which I'm not going to be showing here. They're just going to be already written out. But that's the kind of experimentation you may need to do to make your MapleLearn art work. I used MapleLearn's variables and other features to sort of keep things a little tidier. This is all of the code required to produce the mast and sail. See, the first thing I did was I had these formulas for the coordinates of these shapes. Then I assigned some large chunks of them to variables because they were being used repeatedly throughout the formula, and I wanted to make things look a little neater. Then I defined the 3 points as variables as well. These variables aren't actually on the graph. I did this by going into the settings and deselecting show plots. You see the point command actually appears, but then I'm not actually using it. The reason I made these 3 points was so that the final command could actually look really neat. See, this is the entire command for the sail, and it's just a shaded triangle with endpoints at these 3 tips. If I had all of this in one big line, it would just look so messy, and I didn't want to do that. So I'm going to copy all this over into our main drawing. And there we see the boat has its sail, and it moves absolutely perfectly. Look at the way that that sways back and forth as the boat rocks. This was such a work of art paid off. I was so happy with the effort I put into this. The next thing that I showed in one of my videos was a label. So let's add a label. Let's name our ship. I'll give it some coordinates. That also includes the moving up and down. And I will name my ship the MapleSoft. I know, a very good and creative name. That's a little hard to see, the black text on the brown boat, so I'm going to make the text white. There we go, much better. All right, this is really coming together. I think there's one more thing I'd like to add. In one of my videos, I showed how to use piecewise functions in animations, so I think I'll do that as well. Piecewise functions can allow you to change things as you progress the animation. I'm going to add a sky that changes from day to night to show our ship, the MapleSoft, valiantly sailing in any time of day. So I did that with this command right here. Here we have a piecewise function. We have, let me put it in place and then I'll walk through it. We have a shaded rectangle that I'm going to color light blue. This shaded rectangle appears when animate is greater than 3. We're going to make a copy of it and make a shaded rectangle that is dark blue. And have this appear when animate is less than or equal to 3. Now, as our animation changes, it will switch from a light blue sky to a dark blue sky to represent our ship sailing from night to day. I'm going to do the same thing one more time. Move this out of the way and grab this. Here we have a shaded circle. I'm going to use this to put a moon in the sky when it's nighttime and a sun in the sky when it's daytime. Here we have a shaded circle that we will color yellow, and it appears when animate is greater than 3. Then I'm going to make a copy of it. I'm going to make this one appear when animate is less than or equal to 3. I'm going to put it on the opposite side of the screen. And, ooh, it's red by default. It's very scary. I'm going to make it white. And now we can see these are all the pieces in place for our ship to set sail. The last thing we need to do is, well, there's 2 things. First thing is to make the plot window sized to our liking. We'll make it nice and big. We'll arrange it a little bit, maybe zoom out a bit to see more of that water. And now finally, we'll set it to automatically animate. I choose the option where it'll reset back to the beginning. It just looked a little cleaner. You can toggle between these 2 different settings and see which one you prefer. But now let's see. Wow. Look at it go. This was a big chunk of work and I was really happy with the way it turned out. And there we see the switch to daytime, but the MapleSoft continues to sail onward. Oh, it's absolutely beautiful. This was a very complicated example that used every single tool that I could think of at my disposal. But you can use whatever techniques you want in your own art. I hope these videos have given you the inspiration to try out MapleLearn art yourself. With these tools and your own ideas, you can create anything you imagine. Let creativity and mathematics be your guide, and never forget the most important thing. Have fun with math because math matters. Thank you so much for watching.